perfect
Obama's
experiment.
best year,
It destroyed
federal income
Kansas.
revenue, is pales in comparison to Trump's worst year. Do you get what I'm saying?
Your argument is that Trump is good for those who want a dominant white European culture. The identity of America has been a melting pot in that regard. I don't base my understanding of civil society on religion.
You have low reproductive birth rates. You have a reproductive dead end, so two men together can't reproduce unless they have to take from a healthy straight couple.
How come we have all these programs and the black community is still living in poverty?
What programs are you talking about that are geared towards the black community?
What do you mean? What program?
How much money is enough?
We offered $300.
The way you guys think is just insane to me. Like,
Welcome back to Rattlesnake TV, guys. In this video, we are going to be watching leftist Sam Seder on Jubilee debating a bunch of conservatives who absolutely take him to school. Now, Sam Seder recently called out Andrew Wilson and myself on his show, saying that he's happy to come on the Not One Step Back podcast, which if you haven't checked out, make sure to subscribe. And we've accepted the offer, but... So guys, clip this up, put it on Twitter, tag Sam, and make sure that they are aware that the challenge has in fact been accepted. Now, the first clip that we're going to watch is a friend of the channel, Eliezer. You guys would have seen if you've been watching my live streams. We've had him on a few times. He's done debates on the channel and he's got a channel of his own, so go check him out.
A miscarriage is a medical abortion.
No, it's not. Okay, let me educate you, okay?
Yes, it
Well, hold
is.
on. Get back.
And I'm happy to have helped send this clip viral by posting it on X. Eliezer here does a great job of cutting off Sam's arguments left and right and backing him into a corner and completely exposing him. It's beautiful to see, so let's get into it.
Hey,
Eliezer.
it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Okay, so I would like to touch on the religious fundamentalist aspect.
Yeah.
Are you an atheist?
I'm a Reformed Jew. I don't have a strong belief in the existence of God, but I don't think that religion in and of itself is bad.
Okay, so what's wrong with the religious fundamentalists? So like when you said trans rights and women's rights or something like that?
Well, the problem I have with religious fundamentalists, and really more, I guess it's really theocrats,
Okay.
is that they want to impose their morality that comes from their religion on the rest of us, and I don't.
But morality, from your view, is going to be a preference, right? It's not morality; it's a preference.
What's
So morality without a foundation is going to reduce you to a preference.
Well, I have a foundation for my morality.
Which is what?
It's a humanist vision of what basically creates as little suffering as possible for as many people.
Okay, so you're like a consequentialist? Utilitarian?
I don't really bother myself with being a consequentialist or a utilitarian.
It's always going to reduce you to a preference. So if you say that killing is wrong and I say it's right, you would really have no contention with that.
Well, no, I don't base my understanding of civil society on religion. And so we have a civil society. Okay. We have laws that we have decided as a society in a democratic way. And for some people, it's okay for it to be informed by their religion. That's okay.
Okay, perfect. So if tomorrow society comes together and we say, hey, trans folks don't deserve rights, you would be okay with that?
No, I would be against it, but I mean it would be.
It would be morally right under your view.
Not morally right. No. I'm not talking about morals.
Okay,
here.
So as you can see here, Sam Seder is very, very uncomfortable with the ethical debate. And this is actually a huge problem for him because he's poo-pooing the religious fundamentalists, which just to him means Christians who would like to see their country governed in accordance with Christian ethics. And the reason why this is a big problem for him is because when he makes normative claims and moral claims, remember, normative claims just being what people ought to do. So in this case, that people shouldn't vote for Trump, and the moral claim being that Trump is bad. And when he dismisses religion like this, and in particular in this case Christianity, he must now be able to contend with these normative and moral arguments. And from the secular perspective, it is a very challenging thing to do, particularly if you're not so well versed on these ethical arguments as Sam Seder appears not to be. So it's a little bit long to get into in this video, but ultimately what his worldview has to boil down to is some form of nihilism and preferences. There is no such thing as objective good or bad. We kind of just make the rules as we go. Now watch Eliezer demonstrate exactly the flaws in this worldview, whilst for some reason the others start raising their flags. But before we get there, guys, don't forget to quickly smash that like button and help me out with these algorithms. And also, if you're not subscribed, you want to join the community, feel free to do so.
So here's where I'm getting to, right? Religious foundations provide an ethical framework for one to live their life off
I
of.
believe you can have an ethical framework without religion.
And if we take the leftist view to its logical tail end, to its extreme view, you have low reproductive birth rates, you have a reproductive dead end, so two men together can't reproduce unless they have to take from a healthy straight couple. Religion provides this foundation where you do prioritize the nuclear family.
So do you have a problem with gay people being married?
It's not that I have a problem, I just don't see a justification for why they ought to be gay outside of it just feels good. Can you give me another justification for it?
Well, I think maybe that's the way they were born.
Okay, what about pedophiles? Are they born that way?
They may be, yeah.
Okay, so should we let a pedophile off the hook since they were born that way?
No, I think we as a society has decided...
Should implement duties to prevent them from acting on that innate urge, correct?
Well, I think between consenting adults, it's a different thing than...
Okay,
than
so you're okay
preying on
with a
children.
45-year-old dad with a 19-year-old daughter as well? Incest.
No.
If they consent, you're okay with that?
No, I think society has also determined that it's like it's not beneficial.
Right, there's
for-
duties and obligations that we have, so religion provides those duties. Life isn't about
Well, but
freedom
also
and
I can-
exercising what you want.
Guys, I'd like to take a quick minute to tell you about the sponsor of today's video that makes this possible, because Jubilee does copyright strikes on this video, so I cannot monetize and make this content without ground news. And the reason I love this tool is because it is very, very difficult to stay armed and dangerous with a healthy news diet in today's landscape. And ground news is a revolutionary tool that I use every single day, because instead of having to go to 50 different places to get the full coverage of stories, they compile tens of thousands of sources from around the internet into one place, which literally does all of the hard work for you. One of the great features is the blind spot feature, which shows you the stories that you might have missed because of political bias from both left and right. And this story really stuck out to me. State Department official circulates unverified claims about Marco Rubio's sexuality. And then all you got to do is scroll down and see how it is being reported by left, center, and right. See all of the different articles and headlines. As you can see, Darren Beatty here called him low IQ and was spreading false rumors about his sexuality. And guys, for Rattlesnake TV listeners, Ground News is offering a massive 40% off the Vantage plan, which is what I use. So all you've got to do is go to ground.news/rattlesnake. That's ground.news/rattlesnake. All of those links will be down below, or you can hit this QR code right here on screen. And by doing this, you're supporting a fantastic company that supports content creators and independent media like myself. So thanks to Ground News for sponsoring, and let's get back to the video.
I mean, well, you want to impose your religious doctrine
No,
on me,
because
and I don't want that.
you just admitted we need duties. We have responsibility as a society to keep us functioning, to keep us thriving. Your leftist view, the liberal view, doesn't provide anything besides it just makes me feel good. Religion does. So what's your argument?
What's my argument as to why I don't want
You have no
your
contention.
religion to... Well, because first of all, I don't think that you have the right to corner what God is telling us is right or wrong. And there are differences between religions. And so my argument is, you know, like, you're not going to keep halal or kosher, right? I mean, I don't believe that someone has a corner on religious truth. And the reason why we have a democracy is because we didn't want a king. And the kings came from the idea that their God said that they're the ones who's supposed to be king. And so we can disagree on this. I don't want to live in a country that is ruled by religious fundamentalism.
And if I do, you have no issue with that.
And no. And this is why I say, under Trump, yes, you have won.
Yes.
You have a
Only
bunch
male
of
and
Christian.
female. You're right.
You have a
You
Christian
won.
nationalist,
Yes,
and
which is necessary.
And so I concede the point that under Trump, your Christian nationalism has gained an advantage
Yes.
under this.
Sorry, we're going to
And
have
so
more kids. We're going to have less abortions. We're going to have more family. We're going to have stable family households. Sorry about better
Trans
education.
people, gay people should be outlawed.
They should be straight. They should be straight.
Women should be secondary to their husbands.
Women should submit
right?
to the husbands.
Women
that doesn't
should
mean
submit to the
that doesn't mean they are
husbands.
slaves.
Right,
it doesn't mean they are
I
slaves. It means they are
understand.
protected.
You
Okay,
got
let me ask you
hierarchy.
then. Let me ask you.
No.
Should women be drafted? Should women be drafted?
Listen, I think
If they're equal, should they be drafted?
I think this is the vision that you have, and I think Trump supports it.
Yes.
I think the Christian nationalists he has throughout his government are all going to work towards your vision.
Yes.
And my hope is that when people look at this, they say, hey, wait a second. I don't want my life to be dictated by the notion of a Christian nationalist prescription. Now, you may win out. I mean, certainly, like, if you look at a country like Iran, They have a theocracy there, and apparently that's, good for them if they want it.
My final point is whenever
but
we
I don't want to live in a theocracy.
My final point is whenever we see people live out Christian values to its full extent, we see a great society. When we see people deviate from that, that's where all the problems arise.
All right,
I think you are at home in the Trump. Trump
Thank you very much.
You've been voted out.
So that was an absolute bloodbath. Sam tried to wriggle out of the argument there and go on an orange man bad spiel, but it made him look very bad because clearly he did not want to contend with Eleazar's argument, particularly the one about the draft. And I would have liked to have seen him circle back to that argument because it is a very strong one. If you believe that women should be equal to men in terms of rights, duties, and social status, then you have to agree that women should be drafted. I mean, the equity leftists just have to ultimately bite that bullet because they have to say, yep, women are just as capable as men, and yep, women can fight on the front lines just like men can. And this is obviously just a terrible look. I mean, conservatives value women enough to understand that they have a different set of duties to men that exclude them from those sorts of activities. We believe that men should have to actually bear that immense responsibility, and women have another duty to the home and to raising the next generation of children. Whereas the leftists, in the name of equality, ultimately they just have to bite that bullet and say that it's okay if women get blown up in trenches because of equality. And I do actually like when these conversations get brought up and when these sorts of ideas get exposed, because if you're a rational, sensible, non-brainwashed woman, you'll look at that and just be repulsed by it. I mean, there isn't a normal woman out there who would think, yep, fantastic, I get to go to war in the name of equality. They want men who are masculine, understand masculine duties, and want to be leaders and want to be providers. And they definitely don't like men who want them to pay for dates and handle the intruders and go to war for that matter. So well done there, Eleazar. Very happy for him. He works very hard on his content, and hopefully you'll be seeing him on some big shows in the near future. So on to the next clip now with Sarah, who I also know from being on the Whatever podcast with her, and she comes along and rattles the cage a little bit.
So I actually think that this liberal world order needs to be thrown away completely, and I think Christian nationalism would be a good alternative. What we're seeing right now is just
congratulations.
Yeah, and thank you. And yeah, I think what we're seeing right now is a culture of death. This is the most suicidal generation ever. We have millions of children dying by abortion. People aren't even reproducing. We don't even have like a.
Should we mandate people reproduce?
No, I don't think we need to mandate. We can just stop them from killing their kids.
You want to outlaw abortion?
Yes.
Yes. I mean, we have a fundamental disagreement on this, and my claim was that if you voted for Trump, it would be to your benefit if you want to outlaw abortion.
I think it would benefit everyone.
Yeah, I disagree. I think that that women should have the right to choose.
I think that it would benefit everyone to bring back the family unit, to stop having women just thrown into the workforce.
Maybe we shouldn't allow women to choose to divorce unless their husbands say it's okay.
I mean, I don't really believe in divorce in general, so like, sure.
All right. I mean, this I think though reinforces my point that if you are
but it would be better for society. It would be better for everybody in society. And same with xenophobic what's the problem with xenophobic nationalism? Don't you think that's better for Americans in general?
Xenophobic nationalism is better.
We should have a coherent culture. Everyone should be a part of the same culture. We should have assimilation.
Do you get to choose what the culture is?
We already have a dominant culture.
What is
based
the dominant
on European and Christian values and identity. That is the dominant culture.
White Christian,
it's rooted in European identity.
White. So your argument is that
has been the dominant culture.
Just to be
clear, and we're not letting people assimilate to that. We're saying you should keep your culture, and this is why our culture is so divided.
Your argument is that Trump is good for those who want a dominant white European culture.
I mean, that is what America is. It's rooted in European identity and Christian values. That's what it has been. Would you really disagree with that? What is it then if that's not the identity of America?
Well, I think the identity of America.
For the majority of time, America's been a country. You don't think that's been the identity?
Well, actually, no. I think actually the identity of America has been, for better or for worse, a melting pot in that regard.
Yeah. Maybe since like the 1960s. Even then, even we had this idea of a melting pot. Literally means assimilation too. It means melting. It means you're assimilating to the dominant
But,
culture. Is that not
well,
what melting
no,
means?
No, it doesn't
and
mean
now
that you're
instead we're
assimilating
saying there's something
to
wrong with
the dominant
xenophobia.
culture. No. I mean, look, I got to be honest with you. Like, you and I have a fundamental disagreement. We will never see eye to eye on this. It's a choice. And people, I think what you're expressing, though, is really what the Trump movement at its heart is about. And I think that's problematic.
I disagree. I don't think Trump's like anywhere close to being a Christian nationalist. That's ridiculous. Like, Trump's basically a Democrat from like 15 years ago when it comes to social
So you don't
issues.
think that he's conservative enough for you?
Oh, definitely. Nowhere close. No.
He's not xenophobic enough for you?
No, he's trying to import a bunch of H-1Bs. Are you kidding?
Right. Oh, so you want to get them out too? Yeah. No, I mean, I think you're making my argument for me.
All right.
Well,
okay.
I'm just saying he's not even in this. Okay.
So this one has gotten mixed reactions online. I think that the problem that people have with this clip, the people in the room who are, waving their flags, who I kind of disregard, and also the people on Twitter, is the terms that she used and not the substance of the argument. Xenophobia refers to dislike or prejudice or fear of the others. It actually means, because it's got phobia on the end, an irrational fear. So, I mean, that's not the term you want to use. I think in this particular debate, you're better off rejecting that term outright and saying, no, it's not that we hate other cultures at all. It's that we love our culture and we want to preserve our culture. I mean, when I go to other countries, I can appreciate their culture and the way that they do things, even India. You can go to those places and you can say that's how they live their life. I'm not going to try and change your culture. And I certainly don't hate them, and I'm happy for them to keep on living the way that they want to live, but you wouldn't want them mass imported to your country. So, I mean, what's the problem with Western cultures wanting to self-preserve? Well, there is no problem with that. And terms like xenophobia are just a pejorative that these leftists use to try and beat us over the head and make us seem racist and closed-minded and bigoted. So, I mean, best not to lean into that term, I think, but she's definitely right about America having a dominant culture and that dominant culture being Christian European culture. And you can see this in obviously religious traditions, law and governance, language and literature, and social norms. And there's just no doubt about that. So on to the next bit now, where Sam debates another fella about economics. And there's a few very important terms and things to understand so that they're not speaking past you here if this is not your wheelhouse. When they're talking about the TCJA, that is the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that was implemented by Trump, where he significantly reduced corporate tax rates from 35 to 21%. And from the Republicans' point of view, this incentivizes business investment and job creation and overall economic growth. The TCJA also provided provisions to encourage American companies to bring overseas profits back to the US through a one-time tax break for repatriation. This led to a surge of corporate profits being brought back into the US economy, which could theoretically increase taxable income and government tax receipts. Sam's argument from the left, if I had to steelman it, was that these policies disproportionately affect the most wealthy individuals in society in the short term, as it obviously reduces their tax burden and it has very little benefit for middle and lower class people. He also argues that there should be up to a 90% tax on these high earning individuals so that perhaps you can balance the budget or just have more money for spending on social programs. So this is ultimately an argument between wealth creation versus wealth distribution, but let's have it play out and see who you find more convincing.
Nice to see you.
Okay, yeah, nice to see you too. I want to zoom out a little bit.
Okay.
So obviously you're pinpointing on Social Security, and there's a reason for that.
And healthcare too.
Oh, okay, but Social Security is the program that you're very concerned about, and that
Medicare, I'd love a Medicare for all program, but go ahead.
Yeah, so I think the reason you're focusing in on Social Security precisely is because Social Security is the most successful in a shadow of social welfare programs and government spending. That it's like the Democrats.
It's also the biggest bucket of money.
Sure, it is the biggest bucket, but the
thing.
Democrats have these social programs and this deficit spending, and it just never ends. It's never enough money. So you're focusing on Social Security because it is the one successful child, but you're ignoring all the social welfare state that we become.
Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid make up
the majority.
Over like a
right. So 70% of our
budget.
70% of our federal spending is mandatory, and that you're right. It's Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, interest on debt. 8% of we're paying for that. So the Democrats run on this. Essentially, they want a welfare state. So yes, Social Security might help a lot of people, but it's like we're closer to a welfare state than we've ever been. 38% of the GDP in the U.S. is government spending. That's the highest since World War II. So us conservatives, we're trying to tell you, like, you guys are fiscally really
So are you worried
irresponsible.
about the tax cuts and what that does to the debt and deficit?
The tax cuts increased revenue.
No.
Yes.
I want to tell you about Kansas.
Okay, tell me about Kansas.
Sam Brown back in 2012 brought in Arthur Laffer. You know the Laffer curve, right? That's
Laffer curve, yeah.
the argument that if you cut taxes, you're going to get more revenue.
And that's exactly what happened.
Kansas.
No, that's exactly what happened
It
to TCJ.
destroyed Kansas. By 2016,
Let's
a
look at the
Republican
numbers.
legislature raised taxes again. They destroyed their education
Reality
system.
is against you, my friend.
Look up
The
Kansas.
the
In
numbers-
fact,
the numbers
during
say
the Trump administration, they sent Sam Brown back. They made him the ambassador to faith because they didn't want this guy
If
around
you
because
want
it
to
was
tax
a
the rich,
disaster.
you should vote Republican because they pay more in taxes. Under Republican, it was the same
Revenue
as
went
Reagan.
down.
It
Look
was
at
the same as
Kansas.
Trump.
Look at
the
Kansas.
U.S. Look at the
Look
U.S. We
at
have
Kansas.
the numbers
It
for
was
this.
the perfect
Obama's
experiment.
best year,
It destroyed
federal income
Kansas.
revenue, is pales in comparison to Trump's worst year. Do you get what I'm saying? Does more taxes necessarily equate to more revenue?
Yes.
No, that's where you're wrong. So if you look at TCJA, and I'll say the numbers again, the top 1% paid more into the system. GDP grew, wages grew 3% year over year under TCJA. So when you're saying tax the rich, like it sounds like you're actually a Republican. You just don't know it yet.
You're confusing causation with
No, I'm not.
correlation
No, I'm
because
not.
because Obama's economic recovery was way too slow, and I agree with you on that.
Way too slow.
Way too slow.
When you have tons of stimulus, what you're doing is you're creating the Great Depression for the bottom 90%. All the assets inflate. So who does that benefit? Your policies benefit the 1%.
No,
Inflation disproportionately benefits the 1%. It's an immoral tax on the poor.
Listen,
and that's exactly what happens when they
COVID
stimulate.
inflation was not a function of monetary stimulus.
It absolutely was. They
No.
increased the money supply by $6 trillion,
No, I
man.
understand they did that. I understand they did that, and they could pull it back on taxes with the wealthy if they wanted to. You're making an argument for higher taxation.
So he's actually right here about Trump bringing in more tax revenue than Obama on average, despite Obama having a significantly higher tax rate. Trump's tax rates led to economic growth and ultimately more tax revenue. Obama's average tax revenue was $2.665 trillion per year, and Trump's average revenue was $3.38 trillion. So as the Republican here said, the numbers are really not in Sam's favor. But let's get on to the last bit now, where they debate wealth creation.
Taxation.
Okay, do you think taxing people makes the country wealthier? Is that what you think?
Does it make the country
Do taxes
wealthier?
make us wealthy? Is that government increasing taxes? Are we now more wealthy? Do you think that the only way you create wealth is by producing?
If you tax and spend, government stimulus can increase GDP. Of course.
Is GDP wealth?
Is GDP wealth?
If we import 10 million immigrants and our GDP goes up, are we now wealthier? If the housing costs more, if CPI goes up because there's more people.
No, I understand. And inflation is under
economics.
control, and we haven't pulled that money off the table.
Right, but I'm just saying that
inflation is back
the
down
welfare
because
state,
we had a problem.
The welfare
with
state
logistics.
makes us all poorer. Yes, it does. And you can see
It doesn't.
across history.
If you compare,
people want to come here for economic opportunity. We don't want handouts. We want opportunity. That's why as an immigrant, that's why my family came here. We left the socialist paradise. It's garbage. The people that come here want economic opportunity. And you're stifling that. You're undermining capitalism and the free markets with your utopian vision.
There is no free markets.
Well, there's not anymore.
No, there's never
but now
been a
there
free
used to
market.
be.
No.
That is what makes America the greatest. That's what makes the greatest. America is the greatest economy in the world because of the free market. Free market capitalism is the most ethical and moral.
America had was when we had 90% tax.
That's not true. The numbers are against you.
1940, 1950, 1960, the highest top marginal tax rate was 90%,
what happened in the 70s?
And when
Milton Friedman predicted stagflation in the 70s with your social welfare.
We had OPEC. We had
your welfare
oil shock that drove inflation way up, and that was a function of OPEC. But in the 1940s, 1950s, and 1960s, highest top marginal tax rate was 90%. We had wealth inequality shrink.
Post-World War
We had something
II
called the Great Compression, and more people enjoyed.
Post-World War II Industrial Revolution. We were producing more than every other country. It's because we were producing more than every other country. That's what creates wealth.
And we were doing that with a 90% tax rate on the wealthiest individuals.
Which was less when 90%. When Reagan came in and brought it down, the top 1% paid more. Can you believe that?
No.
Do you know that federal income tax? Wait. You know federal income tax? It was when it was established.
You're talking about the Laffer curve, and I'm telling you to go look at
here's my last
Kansas.
claim. When federal income tax in 1913, when it was established, was only targeted at the people making 100,000 and over. Now we don't even know, most people don't even know that. It's just a base tax. Why? Because the projections that they had of taxing the rich didn't work out like they thought. Because it doesn't work out. There's a ton of loopholes. The rich are smart. Like the rich people are smart. So focus on
our top
producing.
marginal rate still produced an effective tax rate that is double what it is today.
It was
50% effective tax rate.
Does not create more wealth.
Yes.
More taxes
well,
do not
I don't know what you mean by wealth. I mean,
wealth is very simple. It's production of goods and services. That's what wealth is. That's what creates wealth. Money. People think money is wealth. Money buys wealth.
Creates less wealth inequality, and then you have wealth that is shared by more people rather than being in the hands of a plutocracy or a plutonomy. And then you get stuff like an oligarchy.
We've seen what happens when you punish your top producers over and over again. They leave. They stop producing. The government, the
capital flight's a myth.
No, it isn't. You cripple the economy. Guess what happens next?
Wait. When did this happen in the country? When we had a 90% tax rate?
It happens in every socialist country. This is the socialist playbook. They're like, they come in and they're like, guys.
This is not a socialist country, and I'm not calling for socialism to have a higher tax rate.
It is more socialist than ever before.
No,
we have
it's
more
not.
social welfare spending.
No.
GDP, I'll say it again, 38% of government spending, of GDP is government spending. We have more social welfare programs. And look at what happens, but how come we have all these programs and the black community is still living in poverty?
What programs are you talking about that are geared towards the black community? We during in 2021.
What do you mean, what programs?
We expended. Hold on. In 2021.
What do you mean? What program?
Hold on.
How much money is enough? When is it enough? You have the richest country in the world.
We offered $300.
The way you guys think is just insane to me. Like,
let me just finish this.
All right, go ahead.
In 2021, we extended the child tax credit, which is basically a payment, $300 per social welfare.
Yes.
We cut child poverty in 1 year by 45%. By 45%, but because no Republican would join the Democrats, and Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin voted against this provision in Bill back. I'm talking 2021. From 2021 to 2022, we cut child poverty in this country by 45%. Look it up.
I feel like when I look at it,
I guarantee you, I will give you my phone number. You call me, and if I was wrong,
all right, we'll call.
I'll do it off camera. And you will see that we cut child poverty in a year by 45%.
I'll look into your claim.
All right, guys.
All right. No, we'll talk after.
So Sam's actually right there about the child poverty rate being reduced by about 45%. But as usual, when it comes to statistics, there's a lot more there than meets the eye. And one of which being that obviously 2021 was during COVID, so there was massive stimulus checks given out, and then the poverty rate went right back up after 2021. And obviously with programs like that, yes, it might help in the short term, but it's not sustainable to just be constantly giving out all of this welfare. But when it comes to things like the child tax credit, I'm actually not against this thing at all. Maybe not for the same reason as guys like Sam are completely in favor of it. But the way I see it is that with the birth rate crisis that is plaguing the entire Western world at the moment, having government incentives to have more children or to just have less of a financial burden on families who do decide to have children, this is going to be a very important thing to actually implement. And one way or another, Western countries are going to have to look at these sort of policies. And obviously there's a massive cultural component as well, but not against these sorts of policies for the right reasons. So anyways, guys, if you did enjoy that, then don't forget to check out mine and Andrew's new podcast. I'm going to put a clip from that right here, and then whatever YouTube recommends for you right here. So with that, I'm Jake. This is RattlesnakeTV, keeping you armed and dangerous.